Hi, this is Robert of MayflowerBookshop.com, Robert Thibodeau. And I'm here to share again the voice of the silence. And this is the third fragment called The Seven Portals. And the seven portals are referring to the seven virtues. Really, there's six virtues, and the seventh is prajna. In my interpretation, prajna is the right grasp or right understanding of emptiness practice, the right understanding of space, the last frontier, what was, is, and always will be space, and that we can awaken that space. Like Buddha and Christos kind of mean awakened space that can hold everything or nothing and have a mind. This is kind of the Holy Trinity. So in the voice of the silence, there's three parts, three fragments, she calls it. And she gets these from the Book of Dajan, which is some type of cosmic ancient Tibetan Chaldean wisdom of the sun oracle of Atlantis or something. You know, it's crazy. Blavatsky claims that she got these are from the Book of Golden Precepts in the stanzas of Dajan, some initial language that pre-exists all languages. And she wrote The Secret Doctrine based on that. So this is the voice of the silence in three fragments. The three fragments are the voice of the silence, the stillness within that one settles down into true learning of the spirit, and then the two paths, the path of the head and the path of the heart. The path of the head is capable of totally embracing all the knowledge of the universe, past, present, and future. The path of the heart embraces compassionately the inner life of everything in the universe, and it's a path of compassion, actually, is no better word. And the door to the inner worlds. Whereas the head is actually formed by the knowledge of the world. The head knows that it can secretly and not so and overtly come to know all things. The heart secretly knows that it can come to love all things and reach the harmony of all things to each other, held by an immaculate space within the heart and soul that holds the spirit. So in the preface, at the end of the preface, Blavatsky says this, before we start the seven portals, which is the third fragment of the voice of the silence. Blavatsky says this: the Book of the Golden Precepts, some of which are pre-Buddhistic, some are pre-Buddhistic, while others belong to a later date, contains about 90 distinct little treatises. Of these I learned 39 by heart years ago. To translate the rest, I should have to resort to notes scattered among a too large number of papers and memorandums, collected for the last 20 years, and never put in order, to make of it by any means an easy task. Nor could they be all translated and given to a world too selfish and too much attached to objects of sense, to be in any way prepared to receive such exalted ethics in the right spirit. For unless a man, again, whenever I use the term that they printed man, we're talking about manas. Brahman means brahmanas, the great consort of the invisible everything and nothing that causes cause. Brahman is the identity of the Son, the Christos, I think. But originally it was Brahmanas. So Manas is the universal mind, or the nous of Plato, the Christos, the Hermes, the Mithras. We've gone through this in other talks. So where are we now with Blavatsky? For unless a manas, or mind stream continuum as I call it, or yogi mind, unless a man or woman, unless a man perseveres seriously in the pursuit of self-knowledge, he would never lend a willing ear to the advice of this nature. And yet such ethics fill volumes upon volumes in Eastern literature, especially in the Upanishads, quote unquote, where it says, kill out all desire of life. It says Krishna to Arjuna in the Gita Upanishad. Kill out all desire for life. It doesn't mean to kill out life, just the desire part of it. That desire lingers only in the body, the vehicle of the embodied self. The vehicle of the embodied self, not in the big self, the capital S-E-L-F, not in the higher self, which is eternal, indestructible, which kills not, nor is it killed, according to the Gita. You can neither slay nor be slain, it says in the Bhagavad Gita. But here it's in the Kathopanishad, eternal, indestructible, which kills not, nor is it killed. Quote unquote. Kill out sensation, teaches Sutta Nipata. Look alike on pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat, shame or blame, probably you could add too. Those are the worldly dharmas in Tibetan Buddhism. The voice, Blavatsky. Again, quote, seek shelter in the eternal alone. Destroy the sense of separateness, repeats Krishna under every form. I might add that originally to the ancient Babylonian, Chaldean, Egyptian, Hermetic, Persian, Syrian mystics, the only sin there was acting out of separateness. And this is where the moon forgets that it's only reflecting the light, without which it would have no being. But yet, we all need a reflection or an affirmation of ourselves at times. But let it be thy virtuous works heal the world and help the world. So here, the voice, Blavatsky, quote, unquote. The mind, manas, which follows the rambling senses, makes the soul, or Buddhic principle, as helpless as the boat which the wind leads astray upon the waters. The Bhagavad Gita says that. Therefore, it has been thought better to make a judicious selection only from those treatises which will best suit the real mystics of the Theosophical Society, and which are sure to answer their needs. It is only these who will appreciate these words of Krishna, Christos, the higher self. Sages do not grieve for the living nor the dead. Never did I not exist, nor you, nor these rulers of men. Not will any one of us ever hereafter cease to be. From the Bhagavad Gita. Then Blavatsky says, in this translation I have done my best to preserve the poetical beauty of language and the imagery which characterizes the original. How far this effort has been successful is for the reader to judge. Signed HPB 1889. She dedicates the voice of the silence to the few. So now we move to the 7 portals, the 3rd fragment, and the thrilling conclusion to this movie, this wonderful self-initiation book, this manual of self-initiation. And I before mentioned how the 3 fragments are the 3 steps of initiation. So first you're a listener, the voice of the silence. You listen to the silence that speak to you. Perhaps it starts with the inner reflection via your stillness, but eventually something shines from that stillness. And then confronting with the dualistic side of the world, the light and the dark, the spiritual and the earthly material, sun and moon, all the opposites. And that's the 2 paths section. And the 7 paths, the 7 portals, are peculiar Kabbalistic, Hermetic alchemy of the 7 virtues that awaken your 7 virtue levels of consciousness from the 7 earth planetary evolutionary spheres, but also the 7 chakras and the 7 levels of existence: physical, etheric, astral, the ego, the lower and higher manas, the Buddhic principle, and the Atmic principle. So in other words, from the higher down, we have universal truth, universal love, universal mind, and the lower mind. We have the astral, which is sympathy, antipathy, like and dislike, opposites you might say, and the etheric, the vitality of the prana, chi, sun energy that we have within and without us. And we have the physical, which is animated by all the higher bodies. Each higher body is the animator of the lower body. So here we go to the 7 portals, and then after we invoke the 7 archetypal archangels or virtues in our life, so that we're working for the sake of the world and not just ourselves, the Pratika Buddha, the Theravedic Hinayana school of me first and me too and mine, we're working for the sake of all, which includes us, out of Nirmanakaya compassion and the virtue bliss that comes from the Sambhogakaya realization. So after the 7 are invoked, then we invoke the higher Trinity for total transformation into the threefold immortal body of the Buddha. Blavatsky calls upon us to go for the Nirmanakaya. So we begin Fragment 3, the 7 portals. Upadhyaya. The choice is made. Upadhyaya is a spiritual preceptor or guru. Guru means from darkness to light. When a student is ready, the teaching and teacher appear everywhere, but one has to be able to grasp that. Otherwise, you have to wait until you're ready for the teacher to appear. So the Upadhyaya is a spiritual preceptor or somebody who points out the more light way to go. Holy people, learned in the Gatabu Yana and the Yana Dashana Shuddhi, teachers of the secret wisdom. Upadhyaya, the choice is made, I thirst for wisdom. Now hast thou rent the veil before the secret path and taught the great Yana. The great Yana is the Mahayana, the great vehicle. The lesser vehicle is the Ilyana, the name for the 2 schools, religious and philosophical learning in Northern Buddhism. 'Tis well, Shravaka, prepare thyself, for thou wilt have to travel on alone. The teacher can but point the way. The path is one for all. Perhaps all for one too. The path is one for all, and the means to reach the goal must vary with the pilgrims. Which wilt thou choose, O thou of dauntless heart? The samtan of the I doctrine? The I is the head learning versus the heart wisdom. The heart is full, empty, and rhythmic. So that's everything, nothing in a mind of the soul, right? That's earlier teachings. Which wilt thou choose, O thou of dauntless heart? The samtan of the I doctrine? The samta in Tibetan is the same as the Sanskrit dhyana, or the state of meditation of which there are 4 degrees. I often wonder, just for my own sake, I'd like to share with you, dhyana, this high 6th state of meditation perhaps. I can't help but think that it sounds like Diana. And the schools are Dionysius schools of the heavenly and earthly counterpolarity that unites in initiation states via the paramitas, the 6 transcendental virtues, with the prajna perception of empty openness. So the rugged path of fourfold dhyana winds on uphill. Now, is this fourfold dhyana? I'm just wondering. The manas, the lower manas, the thinker that we have, the thinking, the head and heart, unite with the universal mind, universal love, and universal truth. See, this is for the lower mind identifies with the higher Trinity. And the rugged path of fourfold dhyana winds up on hill. Thrice great is he who climbs the lofty top. Thrice great is transforming the thinking, feeling, willing into the Atma Buddha Manas in a way, and universal truth, love, and universal mind. And this is gives you the ability to travel freely in heaven, earth, and the underworld. That's the thrice greatest Hermes. That's the thrice born Dionysius. That's the Persephone who's with the mother in a heavenly state, then goes to the underworld, and then reaches full enlightenment, coming back up again. The paramita heights are crossed by a still steeper path. Thou hast to fight thy way through portal 7, 7 strongholds, held by cruel, crafty powers, passions incarnate. Be of good cheer, disciple, O student. Bear in mind the golden rule. Once thou hast passed the gate Shrotapati, which is he who has entered the stream that leads to the nirvanic ocean rather than the ocean of samsara. This name indicates the first path. The name of the second is the path of Sakradagaman, he who will receive birth only once more. And the third is called Anagaman, he who will be reincarnated no more unless he so desires in order to help mankind, help the minds in a kind way. The fourth path is known as the Rahat or Arhat. This is the highest. See, one overcomes the physical, etheric, astral, and then becomes the everything, nothing in a mind, and one reaches into these higher trinities. And this is that fourth part where the spiritual soul, mind stream continuum, identifies totally with the higher trinity and has purified the lower three bodies of physical, emotional, mental. This is the path of Western Hermetic alchemical initiation. And this is from the mystic treatise on self-initiation, The Voice of the Silence, where it all begins. In Arhat sees Nirvana during his life. For him, it is no post-mortem after death state, but samadhi, during which one experiences awe nirvanic bliss while you're still here. So be of good cheer. You've entered a stream. Once your foot has pressed the bed of the nirvanic stream in this or any future life, thou hast but 7 other births before one, O thou of adamantine will. Look on. What seest thou before thine eye, O aspirant to godlike wisdom? The cloak of darkness is upon the deep of matter. Within its folds I struggle. Beneath my gaze it deepens, Lord. It is dispelled beneath the waving of thy hand. A shadow moveth, creeping like the stretching serpent coils. It grows, swells out, and disappears in darkness. It is the shadow of thyself outside the path, cast on the darkness of thy sins, or acting out of separateness. The shadow one sees is the shadow of oneself off the path. Yea, Lord, because once you become the path, you are kind of the light. It's within and without you, kind of like the Beatles said. So back to the voice. Yea, Lord, I see the path, its foot in mire, its summit lost in the glorious light nirvanic. And now I see the ever-narrowing portals on the hard and thorny journey to Jnana. Jnana means wisdom, knowledge. Thou seest well, Lunu. Lunu is the lunar reflection, the student. The reflection of the light, lunar, loony. It's a little loony, but Lunu, they call the students, before they start self-igniting and come aflame with the higher love and truth. Thou seest well, Lunu. These portals lead the aspirant across the waters to the other shore. Gate, paragate, parasamgati, bodhisoha is the mantra Tibetans have for going, coming, gone to the other shore. It's beautiful, the Tibetans. Very beautiful mantras and songs. Gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisoha. These portals lead the aspirant to across the waters to the other shore. Arrival at the other shore is the Northern Buddhist synonym with reaching nirvana through the exercise of the 6 and 10 paramitas or virtues. The 10 Commandments were an attempt at this too. The idea that virtue overcomes non-virtue is a big thing in the Mithraic mysteries, where the 10 virtues overcome the 12 non-virtues. between 10 and 12 verses. 11, secretly, it's a cipher for the 11 Sephiroth, descending and ascending, that I talked about in my Terra book. Each portal hath a golden key that openeth its gate, and these keys are this: Dhyana, the key of charity and love immortal; Shila, the key of harmony in word and act, the key that counterbalances the cause and the effect and leaves no further room for karmic action; Shante, Om Shante, patience sweet that naught can ruffle; Viraga, indifference to pleasure and to pain, illusion conquered, truth alone perceived; Virya, the dauntless energy that fights its way to the supernal truth out of the mire of lies terrestrial. I mean, the lie, there's a lie spiritual that you're all spiritual and it's not material, but there's a lie terrestrial that's all material and there's no such thing as soul and spirit, right? The sixth is Diana, right? Dionysius. These are deep, deep mysteries that we'll have to talk about another time. But right now, the sixth paramita, the Mahayana Vajra paramita. The Mahayana great vehicle of compassion, the Mahayana Prajna paramita, or Vajra paramita, even if you have the right understanding of the deity's empowerments behind these virtues. Dhyana, whose golden gate once opened, leads the Narjo, the saint or adept, a holy person. Every one of us is a sun, a star shining. Whose golden gate, Dhyana, once opened, leads the Narjo, the holy part of you, toward the realm of Sat, eternal, and its ceaseless contemplation. Saturn, the urn of Sat. Sat Chittananda. Sat is the eternal being at rest, the oneness, wholeness, nothingness. Chit, consciousness. Ananda. This is why Robert says, when Sat the eternal gets with Ananda, the eternal possibility for virtue and bliss, shit happens. C-H-I-T. Shit is consciousness. The consciousness that awakens between the ever-changing possibility of virtue and harmony of the universe and the eternal stillness. Nothing and everything awakens the son or daughter of the great mother and father, being the door of which is silence and the everything in the universe ever moving. The ever moving and ever stillness births the mind stream continuum of the Christos, Krishna, Hermes. The me that seeks enlightenment comes to know this. Dhyana, whose golden gate once open, leads the Narjol toward the realm of the Sat eternal and its ceaseless contemplation. That we can move through life with this ceaseless contemplation of Sat the eternal while we're talking right now. We're driving our car. And number 7, prajna. Very little understood by people, by the way. Chogyam Trungpa goes into a big rap about it, and you still wonder what it is. Prajna is the empty, open grasp of what's going on a practical level. Prajna, it says here, prajna, the key to which makes a mind or manas, a god, creating him a bodhisattva, son of the dhyanis. Dhyanis are the archangels of the planetary spirits. Prajna, the key to which makes a man, manas, a god. It reminds you of Jesus saying, do you not know ye are gods in becoming, which are supreme virtues that make you godlike. Remember, in the spirit, soul, body. In the spirit, I'm monotheistic. There's one. Deity, not God. Deity, come to day in the deep stillness. In my soul, I'm pantheistic. I'm polytheistic. There's many virtues in God. In my body, I'm pantheistic. Like Pan, everything has a mind and a spiritual will and a divine side and a spark of the universal good. Such to the portals are the golden keys. So in Tibetan Buddhism, if you look at Odyssey to Freedom or Joyful Path of Good Fortune, Major Lamrim, Blavatsky talks about the Lamrim as the most esoteric Tibetan Buddhist spiritual practices. And when I first came upon it, it was one secret. And when I first came upon it and got the teachings of Lamrim, it was a surprise to me that it was about trying to have virtue replace non-virtue. And why is that secret? And I think it's secret because it's secret to most people. They don't even know it's important. But we just read the 6 and 7 virtues of Blavatsky in The Voice of the Silence with my comments, and I'd like to just go over the training of the Tibetan Buddhists in the 6 perfections, they call it, to ripen our own mental continuum. The 6 perfections in general right here, and there's like a training for middle and superior seeing and Vajrayana. But the 6 perfections in general are the perfection of giving, learning how to give in a way that's helpful and that actually good results take place. We get result orientation. That's a little bit of Vajrayana as a result orientation, versus no attachment. There's no attachment to the result, but that there's this idea that one's going to get enlightened and make the world a little bit more peaceful and less negative. The perfection of giving, how to give. And the perfection of moral discipline, ethical discipline. Morals are based on the past, that something happens that's difficult or wrong or suffering, and then we make a rule how to live a life, how to make we make a moral, how to live so that doesn't happen again. And ethics are how to live to have a better future or a spiritual future. Aristotle points that out, the difference between ethics and morality. But I point out that morals are based on the story's over and you get a moral of the story, versus ethics are how do we live to ripen and purify and illuminate and realize our highest mind, truth, virtue. Then there's the perfection of patience, learning to be patient rather than to be a patient at the Dr. Buddha's hospitality. Instead of being a patient there, we learn to have patience for the real things of life that take a long time coming sometimes. And then there's the perfection of effort, right energizing, the right effort that's productive to diminishing the negative and increasing the positive, you might say. The perfection of mental stabilization, perhaps that would be like Rudolf Steiner's rhythm of the heart being, our life being full of life, and then empty, silent, reflective, and then full, shining versus reflecting. The heart is full, empty, in a rhythm. Here it's called the perfection of mental stabilization. The right mind is rooted in emptiness practice. On a practical level, we could say that if you don't remember death, you don't remember Dharma, and that everything's impermanent. And here the 6th is the perfection of wisdom. So that is from the Lamrim, liberation in the palm of your hand, and so on. Blavatsky has Dana, the key of charity and love immortal, which I think sounds like dhyana. I think it's like the Earth. Earth, Venus, Mercury, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. We could see these sigils of the planetary spheres as symbolic of the after-death states of the journey through the planets before we reincarnate, but we can also see it as higher states of consciousness in meditative experience. So dhyana is the earth, the key of charity and love immortal. That's what we learn on the earth. To give it away, to be true to ourselves and each other, and find immortal love rather than just fleeting love. And then Shila is Venus, the key of harmony in word and act. the key that counterbalances the cause and the effect and leaves no further room for karmic action. Because we're living like harmony in harmony, and it's Dharma. We're love it all. Shanti, the third one, Shanti, Mercury, patient, sweet, that naught can ruffle. A mind that is, again, has learned the lessons of love, immortal, and charity. We carry these past ones with us as we go to a further state, so that Shanti, patience, comes from this understanding harmony in word and act, and charity and love immortal. And then we have the sun, Viraga, indifference. The sun is indifference to pleasure or to pain. Illusion conquered, truth alone perceived. Yes. Viraga, indifference to pleasure and pain. We become Christ-like. We transcend pleasure and pain and opposites in the checkerboard square. And illusion is conquered, truth alone perceived. And Virya, the Mars, the dauntless energy that fights its way to the supernal truth out of the mire of lies terrestrial. Then Jupiter is the Dhyana, the big family Diana, Dionysus maybe, whose golden gate once opened, golden gate of Jupiter, leads the holy part of us toward the eternal realm of Sat, or Saturn, the eternal and ceaseless contemplation. And here then, Prajna is the wisdom of all experience, the selflessness that comes when you've had every experience, either yourself or qualitatively, the key to which makes a manas, mind stream continuum, woman or man, a god, a virtue god, creating him or her a bodhisattva, son of the Dhyanis. Some people think the bodhisattvas are greater than Buddhas because they help you to become a Buddha. They're the mother of the Buddha. Such to the portals are the golden keys. Before thou canst approach the last, O weaver of thy freedom, thou hast to master those paramitas of perfection, the virtues transcendental, 6 in number along the weary path. For, O disciple, before thou wert made fit to meet the teaching and teacher face to face, thy master of wisdom and compassion and harmony of feelings, light to light, what wert thou told? Before thou canst approach the foremost gate, thou hast to learn to part thy body from thy mind, to dissipate the shadow, and to live in the eternal. To live in the eternal. For this thou hast to live and breathe in awe. Breathe in awe. You have to learn to breathe in awe into the stillness of Sat, I'm saying. But in here it says, for this thou hast to live and breathe in awe, as awe that thou perceiveth breathes in thee, to feel thyself abiding in all things in self. Thou shalt not let thy senses make a playground of thy mind. Thou shalt not separate thy being from capital being and the rest, but merge the ocean into the drop into the ocean. And I think this is the 6-pointed star of the interlaced triangles. Remember in my Kabbalistic tarot book, the upper triangle of the Atma Buddha Manas, and then the interlaced triangles of spirit and matter balanced, and then the circle and the cross of the earth, the 4 elements, and we sit in the center of Akasha, and the rose blooms at our heart, right? That's the Makuth, the Ma-M, the Kuth, and the mother. Very interesting. Perhaps that's why some people want to put the strength card with the lion and the beautiful goddess there at Makuth at the bottom of the tree, but I don't. Okay, I have justice and the wheel of fortune. So, thou shalt not separate thy being from great being and the rest, but merge the ocean in the drop, and the drop within the ocean. So shall thou be in full accord with all that lives. Bear love to men and women as though they were thy brother, sister, pupils, disciples of one teacher, the sons of the one sweet mother. Demeter, Sophia, right? Wisdom of God. O teachers, there are many. The Master Soul is one. The Master Soul is Alaya, the Universal Soul, or Atma, each man having a ray of it in him or her and being supposed to be able to identify him or herself with and to merge into it. Disciples of one teacher, the sons of one sweet mother. O teachers that are many, O teachers that are many. Of teachers there are many. The Master Soul is one. Alaya, the Universal Soul. Alaya is a wonderful name for the Universal Soul. It has 3 A's in it. Alaya is not sleeping, that Universal Soul. That's what it means. It's not in pralaya. Alaya, the Universal Soul. Live in that Master as its rays in thee. Live in thy fellows as they live in it. So in other words, we live in each other to a degree that we live in the spiritual internal and the truths and this learning. And everything else is kind of a mistake and leads to problems, I guess. Okay, back to the voice of the silence. Before thou standest on the threshold of the path, before thou crossest the foremost gate, thou hast to merge the two into the one, the spiritual and mature into the one, and sacrifice the personal to self-impersonal, and thus destroy the path between the two. Antaskarana, like Antaskarana is the lower manas, the path of communication or communion between the personality and the higher manas, or human soul. It's the bridge. At death, it is destroyed as a path or medium of communication between the lower and higher manas, and its remains survive in a form as the kama rupa, the shell. Thou hast to be prepared to answer Dharma. Dharma, by the way, is all the spiritual teachings that bring liberation and freedom, lasting happiness in the spirit world. Thou hast to be prepared to answer Dharma, the stern law, whose voice will ask thee at the initial step. Hast thou complied with all the rules, O thou of lofty hopes? Hast thou attuned thy heart and mind to the great mind and heart of all mankind? For as the sacred river's roaring voice, whereby all nature sounds are echoed back, so must the heart who in the stream would enter thrill in response to every sigh and thought of all that lives and breathes. Blavatsky comments that the roar of nature is in the key of F, and it's an ancient metaphysical occult knowing this, ancient Chinese music. F is the tonic of all nature. And the tone is held to be the middle F of the piano, the keynote of nature. Okay, on with the voice of the silence. Disciples may be likened to the strings of the soul-echoing vina, mankind unto its sounding board, the hand that sweeps it to the tuneful breath of the great world soul. So she talked about the F as being the sound of nature and tuning your heart and mind to the great heart and mind of mankind, and the sacred river's roaring voice, that F, whereby all nature sounds are echoed back. So must the heart of him who in the stream would enter thrill in response to every sigh and thought of all that lives and breathes. Disciples of this are likened to the strings of the soul-echoing vina, humankind unto its sounding board, the hand that sweeps it to the tuneful breath of the great world soul. Kind of like each of us is a harp, eh? The string that fails to answer neath the Master's touch and dulcet, the Master is the higher self, the God, the holy everything and nothing in mind. The string that fails to answer neath the Master's touch in dulcet harmony with all the others breaks and is cast away. So the collective minds of the new Shravakas, they have to be attuned to the Upadhyayas mind, one with the Oversoul, or break away. Thus do the brothers of the shadow, the murderers of their souls, the dread Dad Dugpa clan. I guess the Dad Drugpa clan aren't exactly tuned to the Great Mother Demeter, right? I don't think so. The great goddess. Thou hast attuned thy being to humanity's great pain. O candidate of light, have you done that? Thou hast? Thou mayest enter then. Yet ere thou settest, before thou settest foot upon the dreary path of sorrow, meaning compassion for all who suffer, 'tis well thou shouldest first learn the pitfalls on thy way. Armed with the key of charity, of love and tender mercy, thou art secure before the gate of Dana, the gate that standeth at the entrance of the path. Behold, O happy pilgrim, the portal that faces thee is high and wide, seems easy of access. The road that leads therethrough is straight and smooth and green. 'Tis like a sunny glade in the dark forest depths, a spot on earth mirrored from Amitabha's paradise. There nightingales of hope and birds of radiant plumage sing perched in green bowers, chanting success to fearless pilgrims. They sing of Bodhisattva's virtues, 5, and 5-fold source of Bodhi power, and of the 7 steps in knowledge. Pass on, for thou hast brought the key, thou art secure. Love immortal, eternal love, and charity. And to the second gate, the way is verdant. These are those prajna paramitas she's talking about, those portals. And to the second gate, the way is verdant too, but it is steep and winds uphill. Yea, to its rocky top. Grey mist will overhang its rough and stony height, and all be dark beyond. As on he goes, the song of hope soundeth more feeble in the pilgrim's heart. The thrill of doubt is now upon him. His step less sturdy grows. Beware of this. It sounds like the Lord of the Rings climbing the mountain. Beware of this. Gandalf comes to help every once in a while, but poor Frodo. Beware of this, O candidate. Beware of fear that spreadeth like the black and soundless wings of midnight bat, between the moonlight of thy soul and thy great goal, that loometh in the distance far away. Fear, O disciple, kills the will and stays all action. If lacking in the Shila virtue, the pilgrim trips and karmic pebbles bruise the feet along the rocky path. Be of sure foot, O candidate, in Shanti's essence bathe thy soul, for now thou hast approached the portal of that name, the gate of fortitude and patience. It's just love. Where there's love, there's no fear. And this patience is, you're patient because you see something more eternal. Shanti's patience. It's one of the golden keys, and the gate of fortitude and patience. Back to voice. Close not thine eyes, nor lose thy sight of Dorje. Mara's arrows ever smite the man who has not reached Viraga. Dorje is a Sanskrit vajra, a weapon or instrument in the hands of some gods, the Tibetan Dragshad, the Devas, who protect men and women, and is regarded as having the same occult power of repelling evil influences by purifying the air as ozone in chemistry. It is also a mudra, a gesture and posture used in sitting for meditation. You can see the legs crossed are kind of in a vajra, but also your body's a double vajra. It's also a mudra, a gesture and posture, got it, in meditation. It is, in short, a symbol of power over invisible evil influences. Evils live backwards, by the way, whenever you do things that are backwards. And the higher you go, the farther it is to fall, I guess. So, but you can ever get up and purify and rise in consciousness. It is, in short, a symbol of power over invisible dark influences, whether as a posture or a talisman. The bones or dugpas, however, have a pointed appropriated the symbol, misuse, and use it for a purpose of magic. With the yellow caps, or galupas, it is a symbol of power, as the cross is with the Christians, while it is in no way more superstitious. With the dugpas, it is like the double triangle reversed, the sign of poverty of spirit. Viraga is the feeling of absolute indifference to the objective universe, to pleasure or to pain, any opposites. You transcend opposites, like what Ellen Watts talks about. Disgust does not express its meaning, yet it is akin to it. The viraga is transcends opposites in pain and pleasure. Beware of trembling. 'Neath the breath of fear, the key of Shanti rusty grows. The rusty key refuses to unlock. So I'm going to stop here at the rusty key if you're not careful, and to keep Shanti as real patience. And we're going to continue in the next part B of the 7 portals. This completes the 3rd fragment, part A. This is Robert of MayflowerBookshop.com, hoping you return for the thrilling conclusion of the transformation of the 3 temporal bodies into the 3 immortal bodies. The Dharmakaya, the virtue of selfless space, and the Sambhogakaya, the huge bliss that comes from seeing the truth in virtue, seeing the truth of who we are. And the Nirmanakaya is the willingness to appear with selflessness and virtue anywhere you're needed for the sake of all humanity. Bless your hearts. This is Robert of MayflowerBookshop.com, the voice of the silence. Join us in the next part. Feel free to donate for this work. Bless your heart. So join me in Fragment 3, Part B, where we have this thrilling conclusion that I think everyone's missed in the voice of the silence, where she talks about the Kwan-shi-yin, and she talks about the Tashi, Lama. And she talks about the Bodhi, compassion, forming the vase or the Grail cup, that the fire of Atma comes in. Blavatsky, in the voice of silence, not only presents in the 3rd fragment the 7 virtues as a transformation of the 7 levels of consciousness in the human being into the Bodhisattva by the 3 transfigurations of the Holy Trinity, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, in its truest meaning of the immortal bodies of Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, and that one can achieve the highest states of Nirvana and go beyond, though the waters can be raised as a vase or cup higher to the Atma, and that one can become a Nirmanakaya, maintaining the spiritual knowledge of virtue and bliss of the Sambhogakaya, and reincarnate wherever you're needed, in any form you're needed, as the great Buddha of compassion. We need like we're going to need a few of these on the planet Earth these days. So I wanted to give you a heads up where we're going, and it's a very exciting idea that the voice of the silence is the sword in the cup. The sword of higher spiritual knowledge that comes through the stars is this pervasive descending of the Kundalini light through the top chakra into the heart. And the heart can be fashioned through compassion and love and selflessness into the cup of the Holy Grail. And it's this meeting of the sword and cup that we can become a Buddha and free ourselves from suffering. But we can also become a madman or woman of ecstatic, poetic madness of music. And everything is in that middle Sambhogakaya. And we can also become the Nirmanakaya, the Nirmanakaya Buddha, who can appear anywhere for the sake of further growth in all of us. So bless your heart, O Mani Padme Hum. I wanted to add that secret of the Holy Grail, which is the cup of the symbol of the Theosophical Society, the cup of the circling serpent of wisdom biting its tail, with the 6-pointed star as the cube and the Ankh in the center as the sword. Bless your heart.